Oh, Kwame, what'd you do to my camera? I feel like I looked better before you got here.
It's that melon,
that glow up button.
Yeah,
Where's the
maybe the
light?
sun the sun went down.
Say I stole it from you.
The sun's like, here you go, my king. The sun's like, my king, here you go. That look good.
All right. Oh, no. Oh, yeah. No countdown. Is he already pressed record?
Yeah.
Stole your job. Yo, you're just getting demoted, bro. What's going on, champions? Welcome to another episode of the Perspectiv podcast. I am Kwame Osei.
My name is Dylan Elias.
And I'm Izzy Castillo.
And this is where we tune the heart of mentoring. Let's go. Hey, first, before we even start, I just want to say, I had some time to kind of reflect a bit. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you that have been rocking with us since day one. We truly appreciate it. And if you're new to this page, if you're new to this podcast, please, before you leave, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share this with the world. Hey, on that note, Izzy, can you give an introduction to our beautiful guest today?
That's right. She's beautiful. She's strong. She's independent. She is Pamela. Pamela is a gem in, I think, all our lives, because I feel like we're all connected to her in different ways. But me and Pam have started way years back when I was a youngin', and she was there in the office at a school causing ruckus. And we crossed paths. And since then, it's been really cool to get to know Pamela, see all the things that she's been doing out for the community. And I call her my daughter. She's my soul daughter. We call it chosen family in the LGBTQ community, which means that it's an extended family that we get to choose the family that we surround ourselves with. And Pamela is one of those people in my life. So I really wanted to bring her on this show to get to hear her story, get to hear her stepping into her power and seeing a little more about Pamela and hearing her voice. So here we go. Welcome, Pamela, to the Perspectiv podcast.
Thank you. It's a great honor. And it's so interesting to see everything behind the scenes after listening for so long.
She's a true fan, guys.
Pamela's been a day one fan, yo.
She really is. She actually knows more about it than the more of the episodes recaps than I can remember. So I want to start off with first, just kind of going back to a little bit about you, Pamela. So a lot of people don't know about who you are, maybe if they haven't been around your circles or seen you on social media or any of those things. But the question that I want to ask you is first to give a little bit more about who Pamela is. And I already said you're a strong LGBTQ2+ Black woman in this world with a lot of light to shine, who's done a lot of activism, started things from the ground up, like in schools, and you're continuously being a voice out there for people and helping to be a representation, which is something that we talk about a lot on the podcast. So can you tell me who you are and what has empowered you to be like a voice and be a representation in the communities you're in and just to the world?
Well, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. My name is Pamela, a Dominican background. I was originally born in Boston, Massachusetts, but I immigrated to Canada in 2011, and I had lived in Canada for almost 11 years. Until leaving this summer to move back to the States in Connecticut, currently living on a farm, which is interesting. I never thought I'd be able to say that. And yeah, I'm an activist, I'm a daughter, I'm a cousin, I'm a niece. I'm just trying to, be the best representation that I wish I had growing up. And just wanna, prove to people that if they have the right encouragement and support around them, that they could do whatever they want in their lives. And I believe in that very strongly. And I work with youth for the past, 8 years. Since I was young, and I was doing a lot of youth work, leadership work within Fort Mary Catholic School District and the public school district. A lot of work with GSAs. That's how I don't know if anyone remembers, but I think it was this season, Brooke Millen was speaking. I did a lot of work with her with GSAs in Fort McMurray, and just speaking my truth and, you know, wanting to make a difference and making sure that I leave the world better than I found it.
Mm.
And that's what you're doing, that's for sure.
Yo, hold on real quick. Yo, Brooks' reign as
I
the
know,
host
right?
continues.
Mhm.
Like every episode, it's kind of getting annoying now. You know, I'm kind of like sick of her. But on speaking, Pamela, I really want to hear, and this might be something that you don't know how to answer, because I know sometimes we talk to people who just have natural gifts and they're like, I don't know how to do it, I just do it. But more specifically, you speak with a certain confidence and power that I always say this. I always say when me and Kwame go and do like events or something, I'm like, Kwame's a speaker. Like I can talk about stuff, and I don't mind talking about stuff. Sometimes I even like it, but sometimes you hear people speak and you're like, this person was born, like they just captivate a room in a certain way. And that's how I feel about Kwame, which is why I love being the Robin to his Batman, because I don't mind playing that second role, because when he speaks, it's so powerful. But you're another person that I feel that same way about. We interview, you know, a lot of youth who have a good message or have a good story, but there's a difference between having a good message, a good story, and being able to grab the attention of every person in that room. So was that something you always had? Because since I've known you, you've had that ability, you've had that power, that gift. But is that something that you've always had? Did you learn that over years? Is it one of those things where you don't feel as confident as maybe you make it sound? Because every word, I'm like, yes, I believe it. You know what I mean? It sounds like it comes from like deep inside. Like, tell me a little bit about that.
At first, when I was a kid, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Sure, when I was around family, you know, I'm Dominican. I'm from an Afro-Latino family. We are loud, we are proud, we are out here. But on the other side of that, coming from a Latino background, the women are, you know, seen to, you know, to be seen, not heard. So, you know, I was always, you know, oh, you're too loud, you need to bring it down a little bit. Or, oh, you need to calm down, you're being too extra. And so growing up, I was just, you know, I kept to myself, I kept myself small. And after we had moved to Canada, it was hard. I didn't know anyone. We were in this new country. We were the first generation of our family to ever even consider going to Canada. We didn't know anyone. I didn't know anyone. And so I was so quiet for a really, really long time. I didn't talk to anyone. I had a really thick Boston accent that the teachers hated. I had this one teacher, won't say who, would constantly pick on me in class, be like, that's not how we speak here. That's not how you speak here. You're in Canada. We speak a certain way. We don't speak. And then I remember her saying, like, we don't speak like ghetto, like you're educated. And I just remember just feeling like so discouraged, and like it made me feel really small. And then through the encouragement of Izzy, I started signing up for a lot of leadership programs. And I remember just walking into this little room. They're like, okay, we're going to talk about public speaking and, you know, practicing speeches and things like that. And we wrote, I remember this, it was a little speech about why books are important in the library. And I sat in the front, I had like the most anxiety inside of me. And one of the leaders, you know, set me aside and like, you know, you got this, you know, it's very easy, speak from your heart. And the moment I did, and I just believed in myself that I could, it was the best feeling ever. Because I felt like I found my own strength within my voice. And I found that what I say matters, and I shouldn't feel like I can't speak when I want to. So after that, that just grew like a little like bit of a confidence, little fire in me, and I just didn't want to stop. But definitely dealing with anxiety and depression. There are just times where I didn't feel like speaking with anyone, and whenever I wanted to sign up for those programs, sign up for those speech competitions, it was just so hard for me just to even think about, oh my gosh, I have to I have to write this speech, I have to practice this speech, I have to go on this stage in front of a whole bunch of people. What do they think about me? You know, I don't look like all these other kids, this and that. And so through that, you know, the number one thing that brought me anxiety helped me get through my anxiety. So that's just something that I kept very close with me. And also my family are just amazing people. I come from a very, very long line of union workers. So they are organizers. They are, you know, we call them social justice warriors. They are out here doing the work. And there's pictures of, you know, my family at rallies, at protests. There's so many pictures of my grandmother getting arrested at these protests, of her just smiling in handcuffs. So that's the family that I came from. So it's definitely something that has been passed on to me that I just needed to find out how to open that up in myself in my own path, for sure.
That's dope. I remember just as COVID started, there's a quick story. But I had gone to Calgary for a couple weeks. One, it was just after Jared passed. He took his own life, and then the flood happened. So I ended up staying a couple weeks in Calgary. But when I came back, I'd only been back maybe like 3 days when Khalil passed. This was a kid that me and Kwame coached, and a good friend of yours. And I went to bring the jersey to and again, it was COVID, so we couldn't really have any kind of service, but everybody gathered at the football field. And when I got there, I brought his jersey to the field, and Michelle asked me to talk. And at that point, I was really drained. You know what I mean? I just spent a couple weeks in Calgary dealing with all that. And then when I came back, like, I didn't really think it was my place to talk to a big group of people. I wasn't honored that I was asked, but I was just like, shoot, like, I don't even know if I like got anything in me right now. Like, you know what I mean? I felt like really like drained and empty, also kind of caught off guard. And it was actually you that was talking right as I was getting there. And Michelle came over, she's like, I need you to talk. And my first instinct was like, no, like I can't right now. And I sat, and you talked for about 5 minutes. And there was a lot of people. There was probably over 100 people there. And had it not been for me listening to you to fill me up with like what I needed in that moment, I don't think I honestly would have said anything, because I was really feeling depleted at that point. And your words and your energy and your positivity in that moment just really like gave me everything I needed. And I think that everyone else needed. I also kind of had one of those moments of like, when I got to talk after Kwame, like, yo, you want me to follow that up? Like, really? But it wasn't really about that in a moment. But being there for such an emotional event, because I've heard you talk in other spaces before, but that was just so much more powerful. And that was when I really was like, wow, like this person has like a special gift, you know what I mean? So I just want to, because I don't think we ever talked about that, but I just want to say like, thank you for that moment, because honestly, I really like needed you at that moment. And I don't think like you probably didn't know that, but I'm sure I'm not the only one who needed you at that moment.
Thank you. No, I didn't know that. So I'm glad. No, that was a hard day for a lot of us. A really hard day for me too, because I've lost a lot of friends and family through suicide, and I've dealt through my own, you know, issues as well. All I know is that I don't remember what I said, but I know that in those kind of spaces, you know, you just need to hear that reminder that you matter and that you care. And, you know, when you're at spaces like that, grieving over someone and seeing how many people they touch, and you're just thinking that if only they were able to see the impact they made, or how many people, you know, how doesn't matter like how long you knew Khalil, it doesn't matter if you know him 5 years or 5 minutes, you remember him. And I still think about him. You know, because we weren't really close. Like, it's not like we were hanging out every day after school, but we spent years, like almost every Friday night for a good 2 years together, because I was the football photographer. And, you know, we would sit in the lab together and look over pictures. We spent a lot of hours together just going over film and pictures for the team. And, you know, we had classes together. And, you know, it's a loss having someone that big, that personality, and seeing them struggle for so long and not being able to help them. You know, you just want to make sure that the people around you, you know, realize that, you know, even though you feel so small in a moment, you could be really big to a lot of other people.
Yeah, that's a very important piece you guys just talked about. You know, like I think we all know it, but sometimes we forget it, that time is truly valuable. Like the time we have on this earth, the time we have together is valuable. Every moment we speak to each other could be the last. We don't know, you know. So we really truly gotta appreciate the moment in the time. But just to go off another direction, man, you guys got me all like mellow and like, bro, so it's like a serious feeling right now. But well, first of all, I didn't know you were from Boston. So shout out to all my Boston people. Boston. I love Boston accents.
You know, when you come in from Boston, you gotta make sure the first thing you do is get a cup of coffee, you know? You go over, get a Red Sox game.
Go to Red Sox game, yeah.
You get a brewski at the Irish pub.
Okay. You ever been to Dorchester? Dorchester? You ever been to Dorchester? Dorchester. I got boys in Dorchester.
No, but I was so young when we were living there. And oh man, we moved around a lot. We were in I was born there. We lived there for a few years. We moved up from house to house. And we moved to Louisiana for 4 years, and we came back to Boston, moved around a couple times. We moved around quite a bit as a kid. So, you know, I definitely want to go back, because I haven't been back in like 11 years. And I don't think I would recognize it, because I was so young. I was 9 years old, 10 years old when we left.
Now.
Yeah. You're close enough though. Go for a little road trip on weekend.
Yeah, my brother and I are definitely planning, like, we're gonna go from Boston to Maryland, because my aunt lives in Maryland. So we're definitely doing that pretty soon.
So Pam, as you were talking about how you were afraid to speak when you were younger, and the teacher that said we don't talk like that, it reminded me of like how important or how much power words have, especially as adults, how much power we hold in our hand. And it reminds me of a story I once read about a girl who whose mother came home one day, and she was having a really bad day, right? She was having a horrible day at work. The mother comes home, and she hears her daughter singing, her daughter just singing a song. And at that moment, like anything that was loud or any type of noise was gonna annoy the mother and frustrate the mother. So the mother, out of her anger, says, "Stop singing, you can't sing. You sing horribly, you have a horrible voice, stop singing." And the girl interpreted that as, hey, I should never ever sing. I sound horrible. Nobody wants me to sing. So you know what? I'm never gonna sing. And then she just felt insecure about her singing abilities. She didn't feel confident, and she felt insignificant in the world. And for the longest while in her life, she never would sing. She was shy, quiet, and was afraid to speak and sing in front of people. And then one day, one of her friends heard her singing, and her friend was like, "Yo, you can actually sing." She's like, "No, I can't. My voice is horrible." And then eventually one day there was a tryout, or there was an audition for some choir, and her friends urged her to sing. They're like, "Yo, you can sing." But she believed in her head, because of what her mother had told, that was the truth, that she cannot sing. So she finally goes and sings, and we find out she's actually a beautiful singer. She actually has an amazing voice, and had it not been for her friend, the world would have never known how well she could sing. But that's the power of words, because she believed what the teacher had said, or what her mother had said. Sorry, you believed at one point what the teacher had said. Teachers, adults, everybody out there, words have power. Don't cast a spell on a child. Think before you speak. If you're in a bad mood, hey, take a break before you say anything to any kids. So as you were speaking, that was kind of like it totally connected with me right away, you know.
Mm.
But my question to you, because when I first met you, first time I met you was actually on the football field. I just seen you walking around the football field taking pictures, and I was like, okay, cool, okay, let's get it. Make sure you get my good side, please. Get my good. And I also peeped your Instagram, and I noticed that, you know, like that's a real like passion of yours, right? And I'm a firm believer that our hobbies and our passions somehow have a way of like attracting us. You know, we don't know that we're good at something. We don't know that we could be passionate about something, but somehow, some way, it has a way of attracting us. And I want to know how you got into photography. How did photography attract you to it? What is it about photography that you enjoy?
I remember going into my godfather's closet in Boston. He had asked me to get him a pair of shoes. But in my searching for these shoes that I couldn't find, I found this old this old point and shoot camera, like the really flat ones that you buy at the drugstore. I was like, hey, like, what's this? Like, this and that. And he's like, oh, it's just an old camera. You can have it, whatever. And from that day, I was always taking pictures of that thing. It drove my mom insane. I slept with it. I woke up with it. I went to school with it. I came home with it. It was just I took it everywhere, every vacation, every road trip. Even went to a grocery store. I'm like, hey mom, take a picture. She's like, why are you taking a picture of the grocery store? It's the grocery store. So I had that thing with me always. And when I moved to Fort McMurray, I lost it for a little while because I was just so lost. You know, it was hard for me to fit in around school. And, you know, that was 2012. Instagram in my generation was, you know, a really, really big thing, you know, taking like artsy pictures. Tumblr was a huge thing. Maybe this is making me sound old. And
how do you think it's making us sound?
And I just remember just taking pictures of my little iPod Touch and, you know, finding that love again. And when I went to Father Merck had a full-blown photography program. They had full funding for it. They had like Mac computers. The only product computer I ever used was like the real big ones, with like the back. I don't know what they're called, but I remember seeing all these MacBook Pros and like all these like really expensive technology as a kid in Boston. I was like, what is going on? Like, this is some white money. Like, I've never seen the school funded that much before. And so I'm walking around, and Miss Tamara Price, she was doing the orientation for the chorus, and I was like, sign me up. And I was in her class for never took a semester. I just kept signing up for her class, and I just fell in love with it. And I did it. I signed up to do volleyball photos, basketball photos, football photos, tennis photos. I did golf once. I hated it. Never did it again. Just, you know, school events, you know, photo booth at dance. I would not go to dances. I would just be at the photo booth doing work. And so, yeah, that was my thing for a very, very long time. I did a summer program here in New York. Did that. But, you know, I had one really good friend that we shared this passion together. We will always send each other like, hey, this is the project I'm working on. What do you think? Like, oh, can you help me out this photo? And about the last year, you know, 2 years ago, before the pandemic happened, he taken his life. And so that love for it went with him. So I didn't do it for a long time because that grief is a weird thing, you know. I couldn't take a picture without thinking of him. And so, you know, right now I'm like trying to get back into it through the healing process, you know. So it's definitely something that, you know, that is a part of me. It's definitely something that everyone's telling like, oh, you could be a great photographer, like you should like book this is not, but it's definitely something I don't want to gain money from. I think I just want to keep it for me. Like, it's not something I'm trying to make a quick buck on. Because the moment you connect money to it, or like a profession to something that you're passionate about, it just gets stressful, and then there's no passion in it anymore.
Definitely.
So,
that's like dealing with video Photoshop and digital editing.
Silence. You know. Oh, don't be what?
Just a small smirk. It's like,
Pam, when you talk about, it's interesting kind of taking a step back, because I know we have phone conversations about life all the time. And we always talk about healing, and we talk about struggles. We talk about being who you are. And I know through those conversations, you've always been able to like have some wide shares about like being presently where you're at, like patience and grace with that, with yourself, and being able to still support people. I just want to know, like, how has that journey been for you? Because I know your story, and I know that you've always talked about when people see you, when you were growing up, it was like this perfected version of yourself, and that was hard to keep up with. And then now being at the state you're in now as a person, and you're talking about healing, and you're talking about your experiences that brought you here. How has that been like something that you've had to work on, or like you see as importance for yourself, and even with the things that you're doing with people around you? Because I know you're like the go-to advice person. I know that people gravitate to you to share their struggles and all that kind of stuff. And I know that we've talked about a lot about like how to be able to like support people, but also take a step back for yourself. So what would be like a message you would have for somebody who might be in the same similar boat and wondering like how to move forward with that, and what's a important message there?
Yeah, I think that you don't have to prove your worth. It's something that I'm learning a lot right now in my like getting older. Because I always, coming from a big family, you have to, shine a little bit to get noticed.
You have to fight for your place.
You have to fight for your place. And, it was hard for me because I was coming from a big shadow of like my family. And, my brother and I we're the first grandkids on my father's side. So there was this, all the expectations and just waiting for us to succeed, and putting us on these like pedestals, like, oh, these are, my father's name is Pavel, like, oh, these are Pavel's kids, like they're gonna do great. And trying to fit all those pressures, especially being the only daughter. You know, I remember teachers coming up to me and just be like, oh, Pamela, I could see such greatness for you, and like, oh, you're gonna do great things, you're gonna change the world, and like just like feeling that I have to fit those expectations, because like, oh, I don't want to let these people down, I don't want my mom down, because all these people, every parent teacher conference, oh, Pamela's so amazing, I can't wait to see her get older and be so special, she's gonna go to a great university, it's just that, like, she's gonna do amazing. And I think that's when a lot of my self pressure started. Nothing was good enough. I was like, no, this has to be perfect. If I had free time, there's no such thing as free time. Like, why am I sitting here? I need to be doing something. I signed up for every club, every extracurricular, every competition, everything I could get my hands on, I did. And on top of that, I was like, oh, I need to be independent. So I started doing a lot of like side work and commission work. And I was just working myself to death. And I was so young. All throughout high school, I would work myself to the point of exhaustion. My mom will find me asleep on the kitchen table in the middle of the night. I would work myself sick. Like I had a lot of sick days because my body would just shut down because I just wasn't taking care of myself. And on top of that, dealing with mental illness is hard, especially when you're trying to put up this image that everything's okay. But really behind the scenes, I was going to full-time therapy after school. I was, being sent away to therapy camp, doing all these, self-work things and trying to put up a facade that everything was okay at school with all my teachers, so they wouldn't take these privileges away from me. So that was really hard. And just realizing that it was okay to let some things go was really hard. And so I acted out a lot. I was like, I stopped caring and I just let a lot of things go. And, I wish those hours that I had spent stressing, that I would take some time for myself. eat dinner with my family, call my grandma back when she called me. Just little things like that I wish I did. I don't regret anything. I don't. I learned from it, I grew from it, but I wish I took better care of myself and just knew that I didn't have to prove my worth, that I was worthy, and that the people around me will love me no matter what. So yeah, that's definitely something that I wish I told myself more, because I was hearing it around me, but I didn't take it. But I wish I told myself that more, for sure.
That's really important. Like, we see that a lot. We hear that a lot. Like, we talk about mentoring and how those are like often the cases where people are, I don't know, Dylan, if you, or probably Kwame too, like how we were going to a school and like the one that was like up there, top student and all this kind of stuff would never be looked at. Be like, they're fine. They're surviving. I think that's an important dialogue to have, because a lot of people assume that, and it's the opposite. And I think when I met you, I can see that was happening. And then hearing your story as like a young adult now, going through it and finding different ways, I think it's important to be able to just hear that message. I know you're always about like telling people, you're worthy and you don't need to put a facade to be able to be seen. So thank you for that.
Also, a thing that you pointed out is just something that I've been kind of like, how you were saying your strive for excellence was built around how many things you could do. Like, oh, I got to pick up this extracurricular. Oh, I got to work that. And that's kind of how our society is built, right? Like the go-getters, like it's almost like a badge of pride that I only sleep like 6 hours a night, or I'm up early grinding, and then we do all these things. And to an extent, I think it is important to achieve goals but not for no reason. Kind of like you were just saying, like you were just doing things because you felt like you had to do stuff. And as an overachiever, I'm just going to keep piling on my plate and look what I can do and look what I can do. And I'm definitely guilty of that. And in the last, like, especially year, I think COVID did this a little bit to all of us, but just kind of like scaling back and being like, okay, what's really important? Like, I've been taking on this project for the last couple of years, but why? Like, is it bringing joy to my life anymore? Maybe it was, but is it still? Or am I doing it because I'm expected to do it by certain people? Like, who am I really doing things for? You know what I'm saying? So I liked how you kind of learned that lesson. Like, how old are you?
I'm 20.
Yeah. So like for you to even be reflecting now, to be like, oh, I wish I did this, I wish I thought about this more. Like, yeah, me too, bro. Like 10 years ago. So I'm glad you're taking those lessons early, you know what I'm saying? And not waiting till you're old like us to figure that out. But
before the gray hairs come in.
Yeah.
There's a couple.
Yeah. It's kind of like, doing things with a purpose, not just for the sake of doing it. As you're speaking, I'm thinking about that. Kanye West album, the first album, where that skit where is it Jimmy's talking about his dad having degrees and kept on stacking up the degrees, and then he was in school while his dad was in school, and his dad was bragging about the degrees, and when the dad passes away, all he has is the degrees, and he's like, oh, I may be broke and have no money and not have a home, but I got these degrees.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like, was that your passion? Like, were you making a difference in this world? So that's big. I'm glad that you definitely recognize that. So Pam, we got a couple of questions we like to ask at the end of our podcast with our guests, and you kind of already answered one of them, so I'm just going to deviate to the second, because you kind of also talked about the expectations that you felt, the pressure you felt from your parents and external people, and how that made you feel, right? So, but looking back now at you in one of your times of feeling immense pressure or times of hardship, if you can go back and be your parent or guardian or mentor in your life, what words would you tell that Pam that will help her in that time of vulnerability and need and pressure. Like if you can be the mentor that you needed at that time, what would you say?
Mm. Wow. I remember in the midst of this craziness, I had I almost spent overnight at the hospital after a really, really serious attempt. And I just went off the radar for a very long time. I didn't speak to anyone. I was kept at home. The school said, just let her stay home for a week. It was the longest time that I was sitting alone, not doing anything because So I remember being in my room and just being really hard on myself. And I get a text from Izzy. She was like, "Hey, haven't heard from you in a while. What's up?" I was like, "Oh yeah, everything's fine." And she said, "It's okay if it's not fine. I love you and I'm here." And I was just like, that, I didn't reply, but that resonated a lot because I didn't hear that a lot at the time. So just having someone when you're in such a dark place. I don't know if you know the poet Szn3. He in one of his poems he wrote that sometimes you need someone to come into the room while it's dark and tell you close your eyes. I'm gonna turn on the light. So you just need someone to just hey, I'm here. Talk to me. Don't talk to me, but just know that you're not alone in this, and that you matter, and that I care. Sometimes you just need that friend to just be like, hey, let's go on a walk, or do you want to watch this movie with me, or hey, here's a song that made me think about you. Just that little reminder that there's people out there that are worried about you and care about you. Sometimes when you're in your own head, it doesn't exist. Your head is your worst enemy, and during that time, I had a lot of like, you do this. If you were to die tomorrow, it would have been what? Someone else will replace you. There's always going to be some other shining star. Just being by myself, like, oh, here's your uncle and your cousin. They're getting all this education. They're so educated. They're so smart. You're not going to amount to them. Look at the work your uncle's doing. He's changing the world. He's impacting kids the way you want to, but you're never going to do. Like, just being so hard on yourself and being hard on myself, and just having that reminder of people around you that you're impacting that you don't realize. It's just like so. It's like so calming when your like waves are going crazy. So it's just it's helpful for sure. And I wish I heard that more, in the sense of just, not that I wish I heard that more. I wish I would have listened to it. But yeah, definitely hearing that at the right time, for sure.
Love you.
I love you too.
Everyone else gets some like serious goosebumps. Like,
it's crazy because like Pam was like a young child when I met you, like, and you're so like you're older now. So like even to me, it's always like this like revisiting of who you are now. Like
yeah,
Pam
that little girl got in trouble in the office.
I was like, I didn't even think you were a student, so because you were hella tall. I was like, this girl's taller than the teacher, so I don't know if I'm talking to the teacher or not right now. But I just want to say, like, you've always been a light like that in my life, and I know a lot of people that you're surrounded by, because you do such thoughtful things that show people that you care and that you're there for them. Like, food is like your biggest, like, I felt so much love when you dropped just food randomly during COVID times, and I was like, yes, like my daughter's bringing me food. But I just want to say you're a big light.
She brought me food too.
Yeah, I hope so. But
some
yeah,
real
Pam,
barbecue.
just never forget that you're such an empower, like you being just vulnerable about like your experiences with mental health is very important. We've been in this for 2 years, and I know that a lot of people have been struggling. I've just hear a lot of people during this time struggling and just being isolated. So thanks for just being able to like share a little bit of your story so that people understand like you're not alone, that you're worthy, and there's people out there. And just keep shining your light, because I know I feel it all the time. And like I'm sitting here and I feel like you're right in front of me. So I feel your energy, and it feels warm. So thank you. My Pisces second one.
Waterworks, as you cannot tell. Waterworks as
it
a Pisces.
Sweats right now.
Pam, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your perspective with us. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you for reminding us not to put pressure on us and to live with a purpose in everything we do. And really appreciate your time here with us today. And on that note, Dylan, hit them with the outro.
Oh, I love how he just wraps that up with a bow real nice at the end. Jeez. All right, everybody. Well, that's our perspective on mentoring. Thank you, Pamela. We'll see you all next time. Remember, this is just our perspective. What's yours? See you next week.
Let's go. You got it.
Back. Oh, man. Yes.